welcome to Research and Study Opportunities in Latin America. This webinar is the second in a series of academic exchange webinars put on by Conéctate A+, which is a cluster of cooperation that involves the Mountain Research Initiative here in Switzerland, where I am. My name is Gabrielle Vance. My colleague Randy Munoz is here from the University of Zurich, and Conde-san is our other partner for the cluster of cooperation or CLOC, Conéctate A+. And Randy will tell us more about the CLOC in a moment, but one big focus for us is promoting bilateral academic exchange between Switzerland and the tropical Andes and Central America, or the Andes Plus region, and all of Latin America as a whole. So today we will find out a bit more about Conéctate A+ from Randy, and then we have 3 presentations from our colleagues both here in Switzerland and in Latin America. And again, to remind you that we want this to be very interactive. So after each person presents relatively briefly, we will have plenty of time for questions and answers. If you have a question at any point, please type it in the chat. And if it's for a specific person, please put that person's name. If it's for everyone, that's fine too. You also have the option during the Q&A to unmute yourself and or turn on your video if you feel comfortable doing that. So thanks again for coming, and I will turn it over to Randy to tell us about what is Conéctate A+. Thanks.
So thanks, Gabrielle. Okay, so I'm going to quickly present what Conéctate network is. So indeed, Conéctate is a network, as Gabrielle just indicated, it's a network with the aim to foster scientific exchange and collaboration between different institutions in Switzerland and also institutions in Latin America. At this time, we have a main focus on the tropical Andes and also some countries in Central America, but we have also, we are increasing and we are expanding the number of collaborators and partners to become members of the Conéctate Andes Plus network. So these are the main countries where we are working now: Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, and many others in Central America, with the main focus of working with climate change adaptation and now also including human health. So the main partners in this network are the Mountain Research Initiative, the NGO Condesign, and the University of Zurich. So, but we also, in addition, have different funding partners from the different universities and all the different countries who are continuously providing insights and inputs about climate change adaptation strategies in all the countries that I have indicated previously. So right now, the Conéctate Andes Plus network is on the second stage, starting in 2021 and which will last until 2024. And the main focus are climate change adaptation, human health, and biodiversity, and all the different exchanges and links existing between all these topics. And some of the main activities we have within this network are the small grants, some webinars like this one, and also facilitating cooperation and exchange. About the webinars, you will find plenty of the webinars on both languages, English and Spanish, which are currently happen 1 or 2 times per month, also on different topics related to climate change, human health, and biodiversity. But also one of the most important activities for the network is the different small grants. And in the first stage of the Conéctate Andes Plus network, we had one call for small grants and with focus on different topics. And now we are planning to have another call by early 2022 for other different topics. And the main goal with these small grants is to allow the different participants to focus on one single topic and allow them to write papers and so on, and also facilitate the exchange with the different partners in both South America and Switzerland. So for any communication, for any contact, please contact us at the University of Zurich, Fundesang at the MRI also. And please also visit the website of the network, blog.condesang.org. And also please go for the newsletter at the Mountain Research Initiative, where most of the activities within the network are shared with all the partners. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Randy. Such a good point that people interested in this webinar may also be interested in the Conéctate A Plus Phase 2 Small Grants Program focused on ecosystems, climate, and health. And look out for more information about that coming with a funding call by the end of the year. So thanks again, Randy. And next we will hear from Inigo Irarrazaval from Chile, from CIEP, who will share with us about planning fieldwork in an unknown territory. So thank you.
Okay, so let's start slideshow. Okay, thank you very much for the invitation to the webinar. My name is Inigo Irarrazaval. I'm currently a postdoctoral researcher based in Coyhaique, a city in Patagonia. Last year, I finished my PhD in the University of Lausanne. And during the last year of my PhD, I carried out a research project here in Patagonia. So in this talk, I would like to share some of the research opportunities, very general, that I have found in Patagonia, and also speak about the challenges that I faced when doing fieldwork here. Also, I'm from Chile, but coming from Switzerland and not being very familiar with the territory, even though it's my home country. So this was the inspiration for me. This is a picture of Exploradores Glacier 2019. This is located in the northern, the north of the northern ice field. And coming from the studying the glaciers in the Alps, I wanted to expand into a larger scale problem. So I was inspired by many of the unknowns that are currently in science in this location. In this particular glacier, there are some lakes forming out. So I wanted to study how the dynamic of the glacier is affected by all these lakes. But also it's a journey about finding the way how to reach this place, how to get financed for this research project, and also establishing collaborations with multiple partners, which involve Swiss partners, local universities, also local institutions, public institutions, also private institutions that made the research stay and finally the research possible. But let's start with the general context of what is Patagonia. So Patagonia is located here at the southern of South America. Here I place the boundary of Switzerland just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about. We have the boundary with 300 kilometers wide, and here I will be speaking about the Chilean part of Patagonia, and mostly about the area that I do research on. So you can see that Patagonia is a very large area, but I will be restricted mostly in this area over here, that is with the boundaries over here. So one of the interesting things about Patagonia is that it's remote and it's very less popular. Few people live there. So the rate is more or less 1 habitant per square kilometer. If you compare that with Switzerland, 219 inhabitants per square kilometer. So less people means also less roads, means less more pristine forests, more pristine landscape. So that's why one of the reasons why I'm interested in this area. And also I'm mostly a gastrologist, so I would like to share some of the main points also Patagonia was mostly glaciated 35,000 years ago. So we have 35,000 years ago, we have the dominantly a landscape like this one. But now we have a landscape that have changed, that is more urbanized or rural, or and where forests now are growing and the glaciers have mostly retreated, and now the glaciers are confined to a small portion of the territory. You can see here in the black area that this is where the glaciers are living now. And also there is a strong climatic gradient. So the west is influenced by the Pacific Ocean, and a lot of precipitation falls there. So you have rainforest, evergreen forest. More close to the west, it becomes drier. So you have deciduous trees. More to the east, I'm sorry, it becomes drier. And more to the east, you have also drier vegetation. Vegetation out there for drier climate. And also, as the glaciers have retreated, this leads to many of the natural hazards. So it's a changing environment. You can see that in Switzerland as well. So it's very dynamic. Here you can see some houses that have flooded by a river. So the sediments of the river are becoming larger and larger. So there are many challenges in that direction. Also, this region, its population is growing. So we are affecting the natural systems, and here we are placing some infrastructure on rivers, etc. So these are changes that happened perhaps in Switzerland a long time ago, but now in Patagonia we are seeing this because now it's getting more and more populated. And also some of the classical ecological crises. So for example, salmons were introduced many years ago, and they diminished the population of local fishes. So this made also many problems that we face now. But also, I mean, there are some ecological problems, but also most of the territory is pristine, and the forests are very pristine in general. And a lot of the proportion of the territory is also a part of national parks. But let's go back to my project. So I was doing a PhD in the University of Bern, and for the last year I wanted to do something different to expand my set of skills. And I wanted to travel here to study these glaciers, but I didn't know how to set up a bit my fieldwork goals because I was not familiar with the area. I didn't know about accessibility or how much capable was I to travel within these places that I haven't been before. So that was the big question that I had in mind. I think that most of the bottlenecks comes out to accessibility and other points that I would like to mention in the talk. So just to highlight, here I have a map, a heat map, where it's pointing out where the most of the research of our research center is being done. So you can see that most of the research is being done in these red areas that are more to the east, and these are mainly constricted by the main road. So still we are biased towards where we can have access. We are doing research, and well, here we have some points of the ocean overflow, for example. But for example, look at this area. It's hardly any people reach there. Also, we have the northern Patagonian ice field. It's very remote and few people go there. So still there are many opportunities about accessibility if we are able to tackle that challenge. So regarding accessibility, so I defined my plan from Switzerland. I arrived there, and the road that was going to get us to the glacier was recently blocked by a landslide. And the landslide also blocked the river, so it flooded and formed a lake, so we couldn't reach it. And this is where the road was. But fortunately enough, we have had made a good decision. We partnered out with a tourist operator, and he was able to get us a boat that could carry us to the other side of the lake, and then find a vehicle on the other side, and then we were able to reach our area. So in that sense, this is first sort of advice. Try to partner with local tourist operators are very efficient in managing these sort of complications that can occur. But also you have to think about remote and opportunity. So Patagonia has remote places, but it's not as remote as other places like Greenland, for example, or Antarctica. So if you're planning to do some glaciological work or glaciological research, you can find pretty large glaciers, but still in a place where you don't need a very large project, such as you will need it in Antarctica or in Greenland. Also, one of the challenges I face is that usually the meteorological, the weather forecast is not very good. And I plan to fly drones. So that was perhaps something that I didn't account for. So I reached there, and on the first place, I wanted to fly the drone, but basically I had no good day to do it. But fortunately enough, I allowed myself to stay for a very long period. So I was able to find the nice weather window. So that's also another advice, that coming here, there is full weather forecast, and you have to allow yourself for a long stay period. But also you have to see it as an opportunity. We have full weather forecast because we have few data. So it's very worth it to come here and collect meteorological data. Also regarding technical support, even though I live in a city of 80,000 inhabitants, some specific hardware or tool might get a while to reach here. So you have to, if you're coming from Switzerland, do some research, fieldwork research here. You have to be self-sufficient. You have to back up everything. In my case, I have, for example, 2 cameras, 2 pair of wings, 12 batteries. So I was sure that if something failed, I could manage to do the work. Also, language challenges. This is a road sign that you can find in the highway. It reads zona de escarcha. In case you didn't know that, what it means. It means slippery road or icy road. So some Spanish is also used, is very useful, of course. But I think that the biggest utility of Spanish is to deal with paperwork. So you need to enter to a national park, you will need to ask permissions in Spanish, right-hand report in Spanish. For the drone flight permissions, you will need to do it in Spanish. Perhaps you have to deal with an ethics committee or export some samples, so you need some Spanish. But here it's very important that you partner up with a university or a research center because they know how to deal with it. In my case, I didn't have to apply for a permit in national park because a researcher already had that. So I just got into this project and then everything was smooth. But also for traveling purposes, finding accommodation or meeting researchers, English is the second language, I would say, in that regard. No French, no German. I apologize for that. And also, continuing from the language barriers, I think it's very important that when people come here and do research, they do some outreach activities and tries to follow up their research. And this is a critic not only for people coming from abroad, but also from people from Chile doing research here and then going back to Santiago, other city. It's important to engage the community because they will keep, for example, alive your meteorological station, their project. They want to know more about their territory also, and also for science follow-up. So it's usually seen that some group come here and then they go back and they leave few traces of what they have done here. And we have to wait a couple of years so the paper arrives. And usually in that time, another group comes and do the same job. So basically we have duplicate jobs doing the same thing. So that's very unfortunate. So I think that's also a good point to find collaboration partners, local collaboration. So they, we know more or less what is going on with all the people that are coming from abroad. So with that being said, you are all welcome to do research here. In our research center, we are very broad in terms of disciplines, so you can check the website. And thanks for your attention.
Thanks, Inigo. I wonder, I know we have time for Q&A at the end, but since this is a specific question, if it's okay with everybody, maybe Venetia would like to ask this question to you now, and then we'll move on. I don't know, Venetia, if you'd rather say it in person or have me read it from the chat.
I could ask her in person, if okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks for the nice presentation, Inigo. Inigo, I was just wondering if you, during your work, if you ever considered using climate reanalysis data or, for example, MODIS snow cover products as proxies or in regions where you couldn't really do field work. Did you find value in this kind of data products?
Yeah, I think in general, global circulation models, they are being used here, but we have few field data to validate them. So we often complain about that they are not very precise. That's a big the challenge. So yeah, in my particular work, I didn't focus on climate. I focused more on glacier geomorphology. I did use satellite images, such as Landsat, for example. But yeah, I mean, I think that satellite products are getting better and climate models are getting better, but we still need data to calibrate them. And I think we're still missing that quite a lot here. So if that's your area, you are very welcome to evaluate the performance with a meteorological station here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for the presentation and for the question, and we'll definitely have more Q&A time later. I just thought that might be easier. So thanks again, Inigo. And next we will hear from Henriette Graf at the University of Bern, who will let us know about exchange opportunities in the tropical Andes in Central America, since she is an exchange coordinator at the University of Bern. So thank you, and go ahead, Henriette.
Yes, very good. Thank you for the introduction, Gabriel. Since there might be students from different universities watching this, I'd like to stress that I'm going to present exchange opportunities which are open to students from the University of Bern. However, I hope my presentation will still be helpful, because I'm not just going to talk about our exchange program and our partners, but also about the process from the application to the exchange. And this will be, if not the same, it will be very, very similar at all the universities. So if you're from a different university, be sure to check the offer at your university, search for the international office, and I'm sure you'll find the options available to you. So, since time is short, let me jump right in. The Worldwide Exchange is one of 3 exchange programs offered here at the University of Bern. It is based on bilateral exchange agreements, which the international office concludes with partners overseas. And since we're concluding these agreements for the whole university, they're open to any student studying at the University of Bern. They need to have completed at least 1 year of their bachelor degree, or in the case of master students, at least 1 semester. We have 45 partners worldwide, including 10 partners in Latin America. So you can see this is a very small program. Overall, we have about 600 partners. But this is actually an advantage, because it means that our relations with these partners are very close. One very important point to remember is that the exact requirements may differ from partner to partner. For example, there are partner universities which ask for a specific grade average and or a language certificate as proof of your language skills. You can check these requirements per partner on our website by clicking here on the link indicated at the bottom of the slide. Exchanges can either last for 1 semester or a full academic year. Another common question is, how much does it cost? There is no cost to participate in the program, and you will not have to pay tuition fees at the host university either, because no matter the exchange program, all exchange students remain enrolled at their home university and pay the usual semester fees there. Right, now let's have a look at our partners in Latin America. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time so that I can present them in detail. I can only list them, but I would like to invite all of you to check our website, where you can find the links to our partners' websites, as well as their course catalogs. So we have 3 partners in Brazil, 2 in Chile, 1 in Colombia, another 1 in Ecuador, and finally 3 partners in Mexico. I know you probably couldn't memorize all the names. Again, I invite you to have a closer look later on. But to give you nevertheless a first impression of what a exchange in Latin America might be like, here are 2 testimonials in German from former exchange students. They've both been in Mexico, one studied at the Universidad de Guadalajara, and another one at the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico. As you can see, they were pretty enthusiastic about their exchanges, and I'll let you read through this by yourself. Right, so I hope you had time to read these. Now, let me explain the procedure. These are the steps that all exchange students go through. So first, you will apply or submit your application to the international office. We have 2 application rounds per year. The first one in January for exchanges in fall or spring semester of the following academic year, and a second one in June, where we allocate the remaining spots for spring semester of the following academic year. Once the application deadline has passed, we evaluate applications and allocate the available exchange spots. If you're among the selected students, we will then nominate you for the exchange. That simply means that we will let our partners know these are the students we would like to send you. And then in a third step, you can apply to the partner university. Now, this looks like a lot of work, and it is true that an exchange needs some planning. However, we've put together the application dossier that we're asking for is such that you can actually use the majority of documents that you submitted to us also for the second application to the partner university. Partner university will also check your application and will then confirm your exchange. So you can see it takes a bit of time from the application until you receive the confirmation that you actually can go on the exchange. However, I'd like to stress that it is practically never the case that a student who has been nominated by us is rejected by a partner university. Then once you have received that confirmation, you can begin with the organization of your stay abroad. You will receive a lot of help and information from your host university regarding your visa application, accommodation options, on campus, off campus, course registration, etc. So you're not alone with this organization. Now, I hope I've sparked your interest. If so, here are the steps to prepare your application. The first thing to do is to research our partner universities. That means checking the exact requirements of the partners that you're interested in. And once you made sure that you meet these requirements, also have a look at their course offer. Of course, the courses of your intended exchange semester will probably not yet be published. However, you can simply have a look at the current offer. This should give you a good idea of what to expect. And we also publish the exchange reports of former exchange students, and that can be a further help to make a decision really to apply for one specific university. Then if the selected partner universities require a language test or a language certificate and you don't yet have one, you should register for such a test since you need to submit the certificates together with your application. Another important point, we at the International Office are not specialists in your degree programs. So it is important to involve the departmental coordinator in your study field early on in the planning of your exchange. They can better consult you concerning the most suitable time for an exchange, and they can also give you feedback concerning the recognition of the courses you intend to take abroad. And of course, you can also get in touch to get a counseling session. At the moment, we're counseling online. Hopefully, we can soon start our step-in counseling again, but for now it is still done online. But you can write to me, and we can make an appointment on Zoom. Now, this is the full application dossier that you would need to hand in. There's an online application form, which should be signed as well by your departmental coordinator. The study profile sheet, as we call it here at the University of Bern, or transcript of record, a CV and a motivation letter. If you're applying for a university in Latin America, of course, you can also do it in Spanish. And a language diploma or certificate if required. And finally, a learning agreement, meaning a provisional course selection for each of your selected partner universities. Finally, the certificate of enrollment and a copy of your ID and passport. If you're unsure about any of these documents, please also check our website. You'll find more information on each document there. I already mentioned we have 2 application rounds per year, one in January and a second one in June. The exact deadlines are mentioned here. They remain the same each year. It's 15th of January and 15th of June. So I hope to receive a lot of applications in the future. And if there are any questions, feel free to get in touch.
Thank you so much, Henriette. I know from personal experience that as a student looking at potential exchanges, reading the evaluations from other students is very informative and helpful, and also very funny and amusing, or at least I found it to be so. So that's a good tip. Thank you. So next we will hear from another specific university, the University of Azuay in Ecuador. We have Antonio Crespo here with us to share about some new and exciting graduate programs in natural renewable resources. So thank you, and go ahead, Antonio.
Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you, Henriette. So today I'm going to talk about some research and study opportunities in south of Ecuador. My name is Antonio Crespo. I'm an associate professor and chair of the biology department at the Universidad del Azuay in Cuenca, Ecuador. So I'm going to begin by looking at this picture. It's a typical scenario in the tropical Andes, a mountain landscape that's been extensively modified by human endeavors. For example, pasture and croplands cover most of the land. Exotic trees, like the ones you see here, are abound in the landscape, and remnants of native vegetation, as the ones up here, are very scarce, small, and disconnected from one another. So on top of that, the river that is flowing in the bottom part of the valley was dammed nearly 20 years ago for a hydropower project, creating a novel lake ecosystem that is not free from social and biophysical conflict. So how can we better manage such landscapes to provide for livelihoods and at the same time conserve biodiversity and water? So of course, as an academic, we believe that our environmental conflict should be solved with the best science available. So the answer should be provided by science. So for this reason, Universidad del Azuay, Universidad de Cuenca, the leading universities in this region, we decided to join forces and create both a master's and PhD programs in renewable resources, focusing on developing new knowledge that can solve environmental conflicts with a solid scientific base. So I'm going to talk about these programs. So why focus on renewable resources? Well, sustainable use, recovery, and conservation of soils, water, and biodiversity can have an enormous positive impact on reversing the effects of global change, including climate change. As you saw in the previous picture, natural resources are an ideal interface between physical, biological, and social sciences, and of course, physical, biological, and social processes and conflicts. And of course, such scenarios are in dire need of science-based solutions. And of course, another thing that is important here is that more knowledge is necessary to achieve this goal. At least in the tropical Andes, specific scientific literature is still scarce on many of the subjects. So let's talk about our master's degree. So this is a fully in-person program in Spanish. So if you are interested in coming to Ecuador, you'll need to have a good proficiency in the language. The program is a 2-year program starting in November 15th this year and ending in November 15th, 2023. We have 3 elective fields. I will talk a little about that later on. Ecology and biodiversity, management of water sources, and wastewater management. So the cost of the program, including tuition and enrollment, is $7,000. But the good thing is that there is funding available for this particular year. So if you're interested, I'll give you my contact at the end of the presentation, so you can write me and see if there are any chances of funding some of your enrollment and tuition costs. Okay, so the structure is more or less like this. We have a first semester that you see here, in which all students have required courses that they have to take, 6 of them. And then in the second semester, we have just a couple of required courses, and then students divide into their elective fields. Each one is highlighted by a different color. And on the third semester, the same thing goes. We have 2 required topics, and then the rest are belonging to each of the elective fields. And the fourth semester is absolutely free to do your research project, your thesis, or however you want to call it, or your research project. So basically all the year 2023 will be free to do your thesis or your research project. Now, there's also quite a bit of potential research topics. We have a big source of professors that are working currently in both universities here in Cuenca. And some of the topics that you see there, plant-pollinator interaction, something that I'm working on, native plant management for restoration, also one of my topics. Then another colleague works on insect biogeography. Other colleagues work on water balance dynamics in plants, climate and microclimate patterns over time, water movements in soils, and design and engineering of wastewater facilities. So as you can see, it's a big array of topics. And actually the spirit of this master's degree is not to be so restrictive in terms of accepting only biologists or only ecologists, but rather opening up to other fields, engineering, architecture, and whatnot. Oops, sorry, just a little inconvenience there. Okay, so for example, one of the things we've done is partner with a local hydropower company. It's a huge company in Ecuador, and they have funded actually 3 master's research projects for $35,000 on vegetation restoration. So here's a little example of what we do in the field. We try different treatments and see which species will go better in certain scenarios and which planting treatments might work better to have a better investment on restoration schemes. Now, for a PhD program, this one works a little bit differently than the master's program. It's a 4-year program, and it's called semi-structured. Why is that? It means that you don't have semesters with classes, but you have a 4-year period in which you have to do some courses, very few. But as soon as your project is ready and you're ready to present the project, that's when your PhD actually starts. So it's very much like the European system of a PhD or a doctorate program, in which you just present your project and that's when you begin. We have very big fields, research fields, 3 very big research fields that you can see there: water resources, renewable energy, and ecology and biodiversity. So again, it's a very big base of things you can do here. This program is administered by Universidad de Cuenca, which is a public university here in Cuenca. And the enrollment and tuition is a little higher, of course, $14,900 US for this 4-year period, but there will be some funding available next year. So if somebody you know will be interested to come and study here, well, there will be some funding available next year. So hopefully you can make that happen. Now there's quite a few topics here. Some of them are more or less stemmed out of the master's research topic that we talked about earlier before. So restoration and plant pollinator networks, hydrological modeling, engineering of renewable energy facilities, multidimensional climate modeling, community landscape management, and complex spatial analysis with GIS. So quite a bit of things to do here. At the beginning, actually right now we have 2 PhD projects that are going to begin in November. One of them on spatial analysis and one of them on restoration. So hopefully in the next year we'll have more research projects and have more students to do the projects with. So here's an example of funding for the PhD. One of our colleagues here in Universidad del Azuay, he just won a $50,000 endowment by the Swiss Federal Institute for Forest, Snow and Landscape Research, WSL. And we are partnering with, the funding was by the Swiss National Science Foundation. And Universidad del Azuay is partnering with the Swiss Federal Institute of Forest, Snow and Landscape Research to do this project based on exploring different restoration strategies, specifically what happens between hummingbirds and plants. Certain plants are preferred by hummingbirds, and if you plant those species in degraded landscapes, there might be a positive effect on hummingbirds. We don't know yet, but we are sure that that will happen. So yes, thank you so much for your attention. So here's my contact. If you have any questions, you can write to me at this email address, or probably through Gabriel or the other folks, you can reach me and we can continue collaborating. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. And you reminded me, of course, I will definitely share the slides with everyone who registered and on the MRI website, and include everyone's contact information if people want to get in touch. So thank you so much to all of the presenters. I really appreciated how you included specific concrete things to think about, whether that's the accuracy of the forecast, the cost of a program, or the paperwork procedures one might need to keep in mind. At this point, we'd like to open it up for any questions anyone has for anyone else. I definitely have some, but I'll wait and see if anyone else has any questions we can answer now first. I don't know if Venetia, you had a particular area of interest you might be wondering about or hoping to do research in, or a particular place.
Actually, I just finished my master thesis, so and I worked on a high catchment in Central Asia. So I was like, Latin America and Central America has been on my radar for a while. And maybe this is a very general question, but I originally come from India, and I was wondering if it's normal to have people, for example, from South Asia or Southeast Asia to come and work in your institutes in Latin America, because I feel it's more of Europeans or North Americans who move there for research and studying. Okay. If anyone has any input on that.
Yeah. Actually, we had a PhD student a few years ago, not in our program, but in a program from the US, Anusha Shankar. She came from India, and she studied here hummingbird physiology in one of our research stations. So it was a great experience for her. In our city, there's a lot of people from Southeast Asia. So I wouldn't say you feel at home, but there's some people to relate to. So it's not uncommon. Yeah.
Yeah, in Chile, I would say few people from Asia in general. In the biggest universities, University of Chile, for example, I remember of a particular research group that have many people from Iran. I don't know if you consider that South Asia or not, or Asia. They were working mostly in mining and geophysics. In environmental sciences, I'm not aware of. But you have the chance to be the first one to have.
I don't know, Randy, if you want to share the Peru perspective.
Yeah, I did. I would say it's also not uncommon to receive this kind of researchers. So yeah, I mean, it's not the most. So most of the researchers are of course from Europe and from North America also, but lately it's not uncommon.
And any other questions you have, Venetia? I mean, this is your time. So.
Not at the moment, but probably I will contact them in the future. So thank you for sharing contact details.
Definitely, thanks. Yeah, I'll share the slides, but I'll also, if it's okay with all of you, I will put your emails on our website. I don't think you should get too many bots. Okay, great. I'll put the addresses so that the fewer things people have to click through, the better. One thing I was wondering about, I mean, maybe Henriette could address this to start, but then hear from other presenters too. So as we mentioned, this is a series, and the previous event in the series, we helped people in Latin America learn about opportunities in Switzerland, and mentioned things that might be surprising or unexpected, like how high the cost of living can be, and how things are very, very specific to which canton you're in, and sometimes even which municipality. And so I know obviously our goal today, Latin America, is a huge region, but again, for your regions or areas you've talked about, are there other things like that that you think people in Switzerland or India or other places might need to really keep in mind if they're interested in studying or doing research in a Latin American country that might not be so obvious, or that they might not have thought of beforehand?
Yes, so good Spanish skills are definitely a must, because usually the course offer in English is pretty limited. And maybe not all Swiss students are aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, of course, coming from Switzerland, you can be overwhelmed by just the size of cities or even the campus. But then that can also be a plus and something that attracts you. Mostly people are aware that, well, life in Mexico City, for example, is a bit more dangerous than in Bern. So that you need to be more careful or get the information where you shouldn't go. Yeah, these would be the most obvious that come to mind, yeah.
Thank you, Henriette. I meant to say I really enjoyed in the testimonials how people said, oh, you know, the campus alone was breathtaking. So
yeah,
definitely. Antonio or Inigo, anything to add?
Yes, if you are planning to come to South America, be aware of a couple of things. It's always important to know the altitude of the city you're going to. So for example, if you're going to Ecuador, we have a huge mountain range, so it's very different to be at a city like I am in Cuenca, which is 2,500 meters high, than to be in the coast, which is sea level. So if you're going to sea level, it's hot all year round. If you go into a city like mine, it's like the most beautiful weather in the universe. So it's always kind of mild weather. It can be cold during the nights and early in the mornings, but keep that in mind. And also, if you go into further south, Chile, Argentina, they have a reverse seasons, what I call them. So they have their winter in July and they have their summer during December. So keep that in mind if you travel. Yeah.
Thank you, Inigo.
I think that Antonio's comment was great. I have few things to add. Yeah, I mean, it's a large continent, so be aware of that. There are many opportunities, the tropics, the high mountains, the deserts. So it's very diverse. So take some time to find what you would like to do and get to the right place, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you. Randy, did you have anything to add to that question?
Yeah, just be open to different cultures, just that. And also be aware about the food. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get used to the food. It's just that.
Thank you. I know I come from Alaska in North America, but one big difference for us between here and Switzerland is definitely the scale. And I think that's true in Latin America, South America too, where not just the infrastructure or lack thereof, like Inigo mentioned. I know we in Alaska are very lacking in any kind of public transportation, but also just the distances, the access to field work, those can all be much more challenging and large and on a different scale than in Switzerland. But like Inigo said, I think you're so right. The remoteness is an opportunity too. So definitely something to keep in mind. Part of the reason people come from Switzerland to Alaska is because we have such big glaciers, and that's definitely true in Patagonia as well. So it's not even necessarily negative or positive, but just something different and something to be aware of. Any other questions or any comments anyone would like to add?
Well, indeed, maybe it's a question for Antonio. You have mentioned some amounts of money for different researchers. So I just wonder if this amount was kind of enough for the researchers when doing their studies, or if they felt like it was not enough. Maybe you can say something about that.
Yes, so this funding that I talked about is just starting. So actually next month in November it's going to kick off. Normally a master's student can live with around $500 per month quite comfortably, so it's kind of cheap here. So if you do a master's, it will cost you, it costs the funding agencies around $12,000 for 2 years, which includes tuition, enrollment, living costs, and cost of research. So master's programs are a little more, I would say, less expensive than PhD programs. So for example, for a PhD program, a PhD student, we are thinking about 100,000 for those 4 years. So yeah, it's like 25,000 per year. So that gives you a stipend of around $1,000 per month, which is quite good for our living standards here. Tuition is covered and research costs are also covered. So yes, so we think that funding is enough for our students. So 3 students for 35,000, it's quite good, you know, for a master level. Yeah. Thank you, Randy. But if you have some funding for us, then we are more than pleased to have it. Thank you.
We'll see what we can do with Conéctate A+. It's definitely well in line with the focus on ecosystems, climate, and health. I'll go ahead, Inigo.
Yeah, no, I would like to invite and encourage master students and PhD students doing their research in Switzerland really to come here. For me, it was a great opportunity. And I think that when you're doing the master and the PhD, you have the time to create your own project here, to make some mistakes and to explore a different place. So for me, it was a great learning experience, and I really encourage people to do it.
Thank you. Henriette, anything you wanted to add?
Only that no one ever has regretted doing an exchange. So almost everyone goes through one challenging phase. Yeah, I made a career out of it. So, and I know no one has ever regretted it. So it's something that stays with you for life. And it's also during your studies, you have this opportunity, and it will never be this cheap to go abroad. So use this opportunity.
Thank you. That's very true. So thank you to everyone for coming and presenting. We really appreciate it. I am just dropping a link in the chat for an MRI anniversary lecture by a student who I think Antonio knows, Ana Ochoa Sanchez. So she'll be sharing about detection and attribution assessment of climate change impacts in the Andes. So that might be of interest to anyone here today, just making sure you know about that. But thank you all so much again. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you in Latin America. Definitely take advantage of the opportunity. So thanks a lot.